Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. You see here, I'm Kat Bearfield, registered dietitian with .fit, and we've got, of course, Neil Spruce, founder, CEO of .fit. See a lot of familiar names on the webcast. Like always happy to see you guys joining to get some free continuing education. Just a couple housekeeping rules. You are on listen-only mode, so we will be recording this webinar so that you guys can share it with your staff and your team members or your family later on. And I've also uploaded a handout of today's presentation. It's a PDF of Neil's slides. So a lot of those slides, you'll see there's hot links with references that you can utilize and dig deeper into. And without further ado, Neil, I'm going to let you take it away with today's webinar.
Okay. Hey everyone. So today is going to be on the branched chain amino acid recover and build, which is kind of a silent product in our suite of products because we keep it for a number of reasons. Obviously, when we came up with the amino boost formula, and this goes back to the Apex days originally when I wrote that chapter on amino acids in sport for postgraduate college techs, we came up with the amino acid formula, of course, and that has set the world on fire and everything kind of changed. And it pretty much replaced recover and build, at least in the minds of the majority of people. So, going through all the new research with branched chain, well, one of the reasons we've always kept branched chain because there are people that are very emotionally attached to it. In other words, that's all they want to buy. They use it forever. And by the way, when I was a bodybuilder, I know it's hard to imagine that I used to be a bodybuilder, but you can Google me and you'll find out. 265 pounds, as a matter of fact. That's all we had was branched chain. We would literally dump bottles before a bottle before a workout and a bottle after a workout because we wanted the leucine, and that's all we really knew about on top of the protein that we took. But as years gone on, and then the amino acid formula that we discovered that we're using with astronauts, and they were using it for healing faster after surgeries and stuff. And I was lucky enough to be invited to write that chapter on amino acids from sports, and discovered that hey, that's the magic is those 8 amino acids that are involved in muscle protein synthesis. So they kind of replaced what we used branched chain traditionally for, which was staving off muscle damage. In other words, giving the body some substrate before a workout so it wouldn't take the branched chain so much from the muscle and so forth. And that's still good, and it still works for that. But as you'll see from the new formula, which I just finished here just months ago, the new formula, because I just finished doing all the research on branched chain amino acids all by themselves, in isolation. So once I finished that, I realized, okay, if we're going to use this for the goal that branched chain is still solid for, which is delaying fatigue, it is really a different formula when you look at the numbers. So let's just go through the whole thing right now. And as you know, I like to go start off, and by the way, you should know this, when I do the new formula, I end up taking the heat. This is the new branched chain. This is the old one. You're getting 60 more tabs on me. We didn't change the price. Pretty amazing. But that's how much we needed to do that for a month's supply, or about, depending how much you work out, a month's supply at the much higher dosage now. Okay. Because you know me, it's going to be the right dosage. It's not window dressing like everything else you buy. All right. Okay. So, I always like to title everything. I want to remind everybody, there's another thing I want to tell you here. Is that sports nutrition is considered the new healthy aging. And let me tell you how big that is. Literally in these last year, sports nutrition is overtaking weight loss when it comes to supplements. Now, tell me that's not crazy. And it's because of aging. It's because of the boomers. It's because of all the people, your clients that have the money for personal training. They want to live forever. And it is exactly, and you guys have heard me do my place fan, my place fan lecture that I'm doing around the world right now. That's it. And it really is, sports nutrition is considered the new healthy aging. It doesn't apply just to athlete, it applies to every single human, because every day of life is recovery from the last. And like we say in sports, your next workout is only as good as your recovery from the last. Well, it's the same thing in life. I don't care if you work out or not. Every day, your trillions of cells are replacing themselves. And if you don't do a good job because you don't have all the stuff to do it right, you break down early, plain as day. So everyone's looking at sports nutrition as the new healthy aging. So anyway, forever and ever, as long as we're figuring out what ways we can possibly live longer, then it's living better. That is the key. So they all fall into that category. Okay, so let's get started. I just want to always like to preface with that stuff. Okay, so let's talk about, now this is just, you understand this, I put this in here because of lectures I do on performance nutrition, really understand the goal of supplements for performance. And this is, you can download this, all these links are hot, okay? But the goal of performance are muscle gain supplements and evidence-based only. So we don't talk about all the other ones that are out there. People ask questions about them, they go, there's not enough evidence to support them. So we're only talking about evidence-based, is as follows. When all else is equal and max, including baseline, and what do I mean by baseline? Your place-bound supplements, so your protein, carbs, and fats are correct. You're taking a multivitamin every day, and if you're not eating fish, you're taking an omega, and if you're not getting calcium from your diet, you're taking calcium, and you're getting a gram per pound of protein. That's baseline. You shouldn't even talk to anybody about supplements unless they're doing that. That's baseline. Now, after baseline is taken care of, supplementing should improve performance or size outcomes when compared to a non-supplement state, and the goal is to avoid plateaus. In other words, keep getting better as long as possible. That applies to everybody. So that's what we're trying to do. So the objectives to accomplishing those goals are what we call supplement targets. There's really two of them here. One is to increase adaptation potential. So what does that mean? Supplements that give you a better workout. That increases your potential for adaptation, right? And the goal is to continually adapting in a positive manner. All right, or at least in my case, try to stave off the inevitable. So you increase adaptation potential. What supplements can actually do that? We know that creatine does, caffeine does, beta-alanine, and of course carbohydrate loading and so forth from accident glycine, of course nitrogen oxide, and then sodium bicarbonate, which is, we're not going to be discussing those things yet generally, but bottom line is those can improve the adaptation potential. And then the second piece is maximize adaptation. So very simple, increase adaptation supplements listed there, maximizing adaptation supplements listed here. Now you see where I put essential amino acid formula, that includes the branch chain, because of course we have the branch chain in the essential amino acid formula. Okay, now that's just a background to anything, whatever I talk about performance nutrition, I always start with this. And of course, what's the desired outcome of using these supplements properly? Is to a greater and prolonged accrual of gains as opposed to a non-supplement state. So things just don't stop. That's what the idea is. Okay, so let's get to recover and build. All right, there's your new formula. Look at that, 5,600 milligrams in a serving. And of course, it takes 8 tablets to do that, otherwise they'd be this big. So unfortunately, I had to do that. That's why we had to put so many more tablets in it. And look, almost 2,000 of each of isoleucine daily. And that's the new formula, and you'll see how we come up with that with all the new research. And this is it was a long project doing all this research on this thing, so I kind of had to separate it from essential amino acids. And so what's the advantage, or is there advantage? Well, let's take a look at it all here. Okay, so the product goals. One, which has always been the normal goal, and that is to reduce muscle damage and soreness to improve recovery. If you're not using Amino Boost. Otherwise, Amino Boost is a better product for this. Just want you to remember that. I'm going to keep saying that maybe 100 times. But now the new formula potential unique goals is to delay muscular and mental fatigue. Now, people have always used, endurance athletes have always used branch chain for this, okay? But now we're really discovering it's a little bit more than that. There's some other good things that could actually happen using it at the levels that we're talking about here and in isolation. Okay, so one, obviously to decrease, to delay muscular and mental fatigue, so which means increasing your time to exhaustion, improving reaction time, and then just basically reducing overall fatigue factor, so rates of perceived exertion and mental fatigue. And there's some decent research around that. Now, again, I will tell you, though, it is mixed. It is very mixed. But when you dig in deeper, you kind of find the common denominators. All right, so let's go to the goal real quick. And by the way, this is all in your PDSRG. That's why you'll see the references are all from that. Goal under the category of minimizing breakdown to enhance recovery, if you're not using Amino Boost, is to the same thing we're doing with Amino Boost, timely supply of the amino acids in clinical amounts to reduce the muscle damage, soreness, and potentially enhance recovery. Okay, and muscle protein synthesis. And again, Amino Boost in the right dosage does a better job overall, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Especially during prolonged energy restriction. When you look at studies, athletes using branch chain during energy restriction, they do hang on to lean body mass much more than the placebo group would. Okay, and the rationale for this is pretty easy. The branch chain are metabolized to become available for protein synthesis and energy production, and that's kind of it. It's kind of got a dual purpose in there. During exercise, supplementation increases the branch chain in the amino acid pool. There's a pool that kind of hangs out there, right? And that spares endogenous use. In other words, by having it available in a pool, it doesn't go after the muscle stores. So there's a stave off of catabolism, which we can actually measure, so reduce in muscle breakdown. And then it would which helps delay fatigue as well, and then help supply additional substrate for energy, because they're also metabolized in the alanine glucose cycle. They're metabolized for energy. Okay, so, and we do know there's up to a 5-fold increase in the use of branch chain during exercise. So think about that. So if you weren't taking any branch chain, you really are going after the branch chain in the liver and muscle. And of course, here's another one. Metabolism takes place in the muscle. Remember, from our amino boost webinars, branch chain are kind of unique in their ability to skip by splanchnic extraction. In other words, the organs don't get it first. Everything goes through the portal blood first, and then it goes to the liver, and the liver decides what to do with it. But the branch chain are able to go around, not completely, but they escape that extraction. So they're readily available in the muscle, which is how we ended up using it many, many years ago after we discovered that. But that dual role, in other words, the energy and also muscle protein synthesis, offers rationale for supplementation when energy restriction, especially when energy restriction is required. So bottom line, the goal in this particular one is to enhance recovery conditions if you're not using amino boost. That's the 4th time I've said that. You'd be surprised how many people use both. And you could, and maybe we can talk about that later, but let's just keep going. Okay, so now let's go to the newer goal and what we really have designed the formula around at this particular point. Delay fatigue and improve reaction time during continuous high intensity or endurance exercise competition. Now, that fits into almost any sport, though, you'll see in a little bit. And the rationale and basic mechanism of action is this. Branch chain, we've always known this, and this is what it was used for many years ago as well. But branch chain share the same blood-brain transporters as tryptophan. And I know what you're all thinking there. Tryptophan, as you know, makes us sleepy. So tryptophan all by itself is one of the better, which is why you can't buy it anymore. It's one of the better sleep aids. It actually works better than a lot of drugs do. And of course, much safer. Anytime a supplement works, the drug companies want it out of there, okay? Because it'll cut into their sales. But so what it does, well, by branch chain occupying the transporters, it keeps tryptophan from being able to get past the blood-brain barrier. It'll sit out there, but it's all occupied with your leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And of course, that inhibits the production of 5-HTP or serotonin, which would otherwise lead to fatigue, which we all know. Now, the other part of it here, which is special about branch chain, especially in high doses, are the metabolites of enter the Krebs cycle or our citric acid cycle as acetyl coenzyme A. So they don't enter as a carbohydrate. They're a ketogenic amino acid. So by doing that, guess what? You have no lactate. So it enters basically as a fat when metabolism starts on branch chain. So now you've got less lactate as well. So now you can see how this is getting an anti-fatigue effect. So the goal, obviously, delay fatigue and improve reaction time. Brain, you're a little more alert, not unlike how caffeine functions to a certain extent, just different blockage there during strenuous activity. Okay. Now, so the studies are mixed, I told you that, but when you dig deep in them, if you go to the PDSRJ, you see I found every single one of them, any branch chain study, I listed them all, and I listed the doses they use them, the failures, the successes, all of those, and you'll come away with the right number here. But when you look at these different studies for anti-fatigue, there's significant increases in multiple choice reaction time, and these are, of course, cognitive tests. During prolonged exercise. In fact, they did a couple of like a multiple day sailing race where really nobody gets to sleep. They were better each day. And soccer, which is a much shorter sport, obviously, you got a couple hours there. They also found better reaction times in soccer players. Of course, the reduced perceived exertion just happens from being just, again, staving off the fatigue, and that's part of it right there. And the muscle soreness. Now, that's a crossover, obviously. If there's less muscle soreness, it's probably an indication you're healing faster, all right? So that's kind of a crossover on both sides there. And you're always going to have a crossover between recovery and anti-fatigue as well. But again, we just talked about decreasing lactase, and these are all the studies that support this. Lactate accumulation because there's less carbohydrate oxidation. So you're getting, obviously less lactate. And then they found in these studies different, increases in VO2, which would obviously happen, and then less muscle damage and lower ratings of perceived exertion. Also in here, a quicker recovery, and that's because there was less damage. Okay, so here's where the crossover really comes, and DONS being a delayed onset muscle soreness. So when you have less of that, it means you are recovering quicker, faster. And of course, Amino Boost does that piece as well. But again, the things above this, you can't get the Amino Boost really singularly to do all those things without overloading all the other amino acids. So again, the recovery from before the next bout, that's what they found in these studies, is that people were better prepared for their next bout of exercise. And sometimes it was exercise during multiple days when they were taking branched chain at the dosage I'll show you in a little bit. And of course, we covered this here. So that's the slam dunk for branched chain. You're always going to have a little less muscle damage and delayed onset muscle soreness. Now, this one here, the next bout of strength increases, these studies were actually done in multiple, in same day. People that use branched chain would recover in 2 hours faster than people that didn't, and they were able to perform better at the next exercise test, including time trials. Okay, so there's the anti-fatigue. So what's the dosage that really supports this? This is where we kind of went in. And again, again, making sure you understand, although intertwined, regardless of the goal, delaying fatigue or primary recovery, if you look at what was really the dosages that were successful, and again, you'll find that all in the PDSRG, look at the range, it's pretty crazy, 5 to 20 grams. We did find some low ranges at 5 grams where there was some success. Like our old branched chain formula, you guys should know, was about 5 grams in one single dose. These are, of course, 8, or they're 9. No, they're 8, right, Chad? 7. I don't know. 8 or 9, 9, 7. We'll see in just a minute. 2000, 2005, right? Something like that, or 59. Yeah. Okay. So, but the bottom line is there's a middle ground there all the way around. And again, the range is like any other supplement, where there are responders and non-responders, right? And so sometimes those are genetic variances, okay? But for the most part, they should work for almost everybody at a certain dosage. But this vast range here was probably a result of body weight, because every time you looked at a study, you've got little people or big people, or you've got an exercise that uses the whole body versus just part of the body, so that's going to take a whole different dose to make things actually work. And then, of course, the type of duration of selected, trial activities or exercise activities. And then, of course, the other one, the physiological state of the recipient. So what was the diet what were the diets of these people that didn't respond or did respond, or they took higher doses to respond? So I always like to qualify that for everybody. So those are the things that you find difference. But here's the number. You ready? If you take all the positive studies, the common denominator is about 48 milligrams a day per pound. All right, with at least 50%. And it could be up to 75%, anywhere in there, milligrams of leucine. Of course, leucine is king, as we know. That is a major mTOR activator, all the way around from muscle protein synthesis of all the amino acids. But it doesn't work in isolation, as you'll see in a second as well. And then the remainder split between isoleucine and valine, and that offers the greatest potential to deliver any of the goals we looked at, but especially the anti-fatigue. So I give you an example here. And we actually have it on the bottle too. So a 175-pound athlete would be taking about 8.75 grams of branched chain with about 4 to 6 grams of leucine, 1 to 2 grams of isoleucine. So there you have it. And 1 to 2 grams of valine. There you have it. That's from all the data that's available. Now, again, when delaying fatigue in an endurance activity, here's where it comes a little bit different on the dosage here. So I really kind of went through this. When delaying fatigue in an endurance activity, the primary goal, it appears to be a little greater than or equal to 6, so there's no problem with what we have here, 30 minutes before exercise. Now, it really depends if you're taking it in a liquid form or not. Like if you're using the Amino Boost, it would be a little bit different, but you're not isolating just a branched chain. That would be necessary with a possible smaller dose, so 3 to 5 grams during the midpoint of the activity. So you guys all know our hero, Dan Duran, who runs PTA Global for us, one of our top educators around the world, international educator, actually. He's also an ultra Ironman, triple Ironmans he competes in. So using the amino boost all the way through that, trickling it in or branch, because they have all the branch chain and the other ones all the way through. That's kind of what the mentality behind this. And if you look at taking a dose somewhere in between can help, from keeping the damaged muscle, and because you're going for such a long period of time during these endurance activities. So that's what that little note's on there. Okay, so typical use. So who would use this thing? Basically, athletes, exercisers at any fitness level during any intense excessive training bouts to decrease muscle breakdown, enhance recovery, not using amino boost for this goal. I would always use amino boost first, but there are people, again, that are emotionally attached to a branch chain, or they prefer a pill version of the amino boost. And this will, trust me, this works for that goal. We know that. And especially now with a higher dosage, it's really going to work well for that goal. So you can use it, and there may be, I'm not sure what the financial advantages of using the branch chain, but it was, I think the amino boost is as much as it's expensive, I think you get more dosage out of it all the way, except you don't get again, you can't just isolate the branch chain. Okay, so, and this will be especially for any body fat reduction while trying to maintain or increase lean body mass, again, not using amino boost. Now, so different now for anyone, if you were going to use the branch chain, and for that goal of delaying fatigue and so forth, or rates of perceived exertion and mental fatigue, anyone, any of the team sports, what we call you guys know what we call intermittent athletes. So any of where there's a cross of aerobic and anaerobic activities going on. So you've got bursts of power interrupted by, it's by rest, and then bursts of power and so forth. So any of these where there becomes a mental fatigue, any of these types of sports, so hockey, rugby, football, soccer, all of them, there may be a benefit, and it's certainly worth a try for an athlete, to be able to, get it. So the reaction times by the fourth quarter are better, or any of those types of things, if they're really going after the reducing fatigue factors. Okay, and here's the minimum dose. And again, that's on the bottle. We've already looked at that, but to be 8 tabs, 20 to 30 minutes before the workout. And body weight does increase the need or ability to utilize that way. And you want to make sure you do it. Okay, now, next, because the question is, why can't I get this all the time? Why can't, leucine without leucine, nothing works, okay? That's fine, but also, if you don't have the other amino acids to complete what you started with leucine, which is firing up muscle protein synthesis, not gonna do you any good. Just because you fire it up doesn't mean you're gonna build it. You just fired up the machinery, right? And essentially, amino acids do that the best. Of all of that, as far as muscle protein synthesis. And now I was able to find a couple of studies that went so far to compare them. These are all brand new ones too. But essential amino acids, leucine alone, and branch chain. Now, what they did in the studies, which were, of course, what they had to do, made sure the leucine content was equal in all 3 preparations. And the findings showed that essential amino acids, which would be exactly what we have in the amino boost, and in that proportion, by the way, resulted in greater activation of all the protein synthesis factors. Okay, in other words, the translation factors from protein synthesis. Once you hit the target of mTOR, how it comes off of that, all of these, and with more than branch chain and leucine being the least potent all by itself, even though they were the same milligrams of leucine in all 3 preparations. And the essential amino acid trial also showed the highest phosphorylation or activation of these enzyme systems that are involved in inhibiting protein breakdown and, of course, stimulating protein synthesis. And this is all in the PDSRG for all you science heads out there that want. And then also at the end of the recovery, however, at the end of recovery, everything was pretty much even between branch chain and essential amino acids. But again, leucine by itself won't get the job done. Branch chain would be second in that group, and then essential amino acids. And this is all related to muscle protein synthesis, not the delaying fatigue that we talked about. So keep that in mind. So your take home on this is you need the synergy to produce maximum muscle protein synthesis activity with essential amino acids, sorry about the abbreviation there, being superior when it comes to muscle protein synthesis. But you need the synergy. And number 2, you need, so the question I always get, and I know, Rob, if you're on here, and Kat, you get it as well. Well, okay, how much protein do I need? Do the essential amino acids count as protein? Yeah, so you'd have to take about 40 grams of protein to get the essential amino acid count that we built into amino acids, the essential amino acids or our amino boost, right? So I always counted about 20 grams, but you still need about a gram per pound of protein in order to finish up the synthesis, and you started. And that's really why we have to have both. And I want everybody to kind of remember that. All right. Now, the reason I put safety, I'm putting safety on here is because everybody's talking about it in the scientific community is that, people are really hung up on leucine. So is there an upper limit for these branched chains? Because you saw how high the doses can be. We used to, like, some of these studies use 20, 30 grams of branched chain. Well, there is no upper limit, which we have not seen any damage anywhere. So the upper limit has not been established for branched chain. But the estimated average requirement is, as you can see, fairly low, right? So this is what it takes for the body to function normally, 31 milligrams per pound a day. So that would be, with leucine, that would be about 15.5, isoleucine 6.8. These are all milligrams, okay? But now, don't forget, the EAR, or estimated average requirement, is only a starting point for health or survival. So researchers suggest double for really almost everybody, especially growing humans or people that are trying to stave off muscle damage. Now, what we do know is this, and there's been some studies on this, daily intakes of 15 to 60 grams of branched chain supplementation. So that's a pretty big number, right? 91 to 390 milligrams per pound a day for a 154-pound male have shown no adverse outcomes. Now, there is a proposed upper limit for leucine at this particular point, and it's based on oxidation limit, like how fast can you oxidize it? And the theory behind that is if you're not oxidizing it, where's it going? Okay, and they measure the urinary output and everything else as well, but if something may be disappearing. And that comes to greater than about 230 milligrams per pound a day. So we're good, all right? I wouldn't worry about it. To be able to reach that, you would have to take a whole bottle before and after, and only knucklehead bodybuilders do that. But 40 grams a day that would be 40 grams a day for a 175-pound individual. So we're not going to be doing that. Even mixed with diet, you're not going to reach that. And then you've got increased blood. These are all just the different things that they measured in order to determine. This is a proposed upper limit. It is not established. Okay, estimated. That's just the definition of EAR. Okay, unique features. Well, I just gave them all to you. You're not going to find anything like this in the market because branched chain is a classic window dressing supplement. Leucine is very expensive, as you all know. And there's nobody that sells branched chain out there. There's no company out there that sells branched chain. You're going to get a webinar like this. You're going to get the science behind it like this that is 100% peer review references. It's not going to happen. And if you do, you're going to end up with a formula like ours. But who knows that? Only you know that because you were here and you read the stuff that we produce and we are a practitioner product. Unsuspecting customers don't. Bodybuilders don't know that. They don't. They will just buy the less expensive branched chain knowing that's what they want. So I think that's really what would always be unique about us is you're getting the clinical support behind it in how these things are actually used properly at the right dosages and the dosing that goes along with it. So I can promise you, no one's making a recommendation like that. It ain't happening anywhere. They're just going to water down the leucine, water down the isoleucine. I've seen, honestly, I've seen practitioner products even, and I hate mentioning names, but I will, is Thorne, who's that big, they have great marketing around, oh yeah, they sell the NFL, NSF certified and everything else. Look, they got 1 gram of branched chain in a serving. Really? Well, I can NSF certify anything, right? Doesn't mean it works. Just means it got 1 gram of branched chain, and that's the truth. So it's just those are the kind of things that drive me nuts. And you guys know my 2 sons are professional athletes, so their buddies are all professional athletes. They come over and they bring the supplements their agent might give them. They always bring it to me to look at first, and I go, just throw it away. Just window dressing. That's all it is. It's because they're not putting in the dosages that are effective because they've got to get the price down. So because they're competing against lower pricing. So the good thing is that doesn't happen in your world. So that's always going to be what's unique about what we do. And then you got the right dosing instructions as well. And of course, the rest of the stuff is easy. And by the way, this is a data summary from the PDSRG that has everything I just said in it on one slide. So there you go. Bingo, done.
Okay.
Cad?
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun and very detailed as usual. Thank you, Neil, for all.
The goal of these is to get them all done in about 20 minutes so we can just hang out and do questions and answers. That's really what the goal is.
And we already have lots of questions coming in. So let's get them right away. If you don't know how to answer a question, in your GoToWebinar window, sort of
Yep.
towards the bottom, there's a questions little tab or a little arrow that you click on, and you can enter your questions in there, and then we'll field them as they come in, and we'll answer all of them for as long as you would like to. So let's take a look at the first question here, Neil. It's Elena. She's a marathon swimmer. What would be your recommended dosage for a prolonged swim of 8 to 13 hours? Is that correct, Elena? You're swimming that long?
Yeah.
The primary goal is to prevent muscle breakdown. Delaying fatigue is secondary. What's the max dosage you can take is her question.
Well, I would do it exactly like I showed you up there. You know, in fact, you might, you know, if you wanted to do actually measure it out yourself at the 48 milligrams per pound, that would be pretty cool. You can do that. But I've got it down there for a 175-pound person. I'm guessing you're not 175 pounds. So that dosage on there would be ideal for you. But I would, now I'm guessing if you're going 13 hours in the water, is that what you said, 8 to 13 hours, you're getting some fluids somehow?
Yep.
Yeah, then what I would do with yours, I would take amino boost. I take the branch chain like we talked about before to help delay fatigue in there and have that, and take amino boost as your fluid during that race. And that way you'll get the branch chain in the middle like we talked about.
Okay, cool. So does that answer your question, Elena? And thank you. She's repping Crunch in New York. So thank you for being here with us today, Elena.
Nice.
All right, thank you. Next question is from Connor. Hey, Connor, why wouldn't we just put more protein into the diet? Is it the shuttling effect that allows BCAAs to bypass extraction that make them better than just protein? Really good question.
Yeah, and that's a very astute question, and yes, it is. It is the less splanchnic extraction. What happens is when you take a complete protein, of course, they're all fighting for similar transporters, the amino acids. First, you got to break it down. You got to get it all separated and, you know, break everything up. And then as they go into the portal system, everything's pretty much going to the liver. Branch chain's not flooding it. A direct flood is the only way you're going to be able to block transporters. The only way you're going to get the splanchnic extraction. You know, or missing splanchnic extraction. That's the only way you're going to get it, by flooding it with the branch chain. And the amount of protein you need to get that kind of branch chain, let me tell you something. I don't think you want to eat that much.
Okay. So cool, Connor. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone wants to know, what about for a 225 pincher? I'm not following you, Brian. That works for the edge.
Stick with amino boost. That's got to be a bodybuilder guy, right? So yeah, stick with amino boost. You don't need a branch chain. I mean, I don't see a reason to take branch chain. Yeah, amino boost, and to Connor's last point, get enough protein in your diet.
There you go.
Taking branch chain would be overkill for that person.
Okay, so did you get that, Brian? It would be
unless you're a bodybuilder running marathons.
There you go. If you need to delay fatigue, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You never know. Mentally though, honestly, seriously, we used to mainline branch chain before tests, before all kinds. Now caffeine actually works better and it's more studied. You kind of mix the two, branch chain and caffeine. Trust me, you'll be alert.
Okay, so next question is regarding the impact on tryptophan and subsequent inhibition of serotonin production. Would you recommend a cutoff time for taking BCAAs before bed so as not to interfere with sleep? Wow, another great question.
Yeah, but generally you don't need tryptophan to go to sleep, just so you know. That's not the only thing that stimulates serotonin. It just happens to be one of those things during exercise that is released, as you know, on a regular time, that creeps in there that we want to keep out while we're exercising. So branch chain really doesn't have a central nervous system effect like caffeine. Like we do tell you 4 hours, you know, before bed with caffeine, because that's an ADP blocker, right? And that is a central nervous system and a peripheral nervous system, by the way, stimulant, because it is an ADP blocker, which keeps cyclic AMP high in the body, which keeps you fairly alert, because you know it can't get the ADP cannot get into the receptors in the brain. because caffeine's blocking it. But branched chain doesn't do that. So in other words, the tryptophan is not the only thing that's putting you to sleep. It's just a very small part of it. You'll get plenty. I don't know anybody that's ever taken a branched chain to sit out. That I could be wrong. I mean, there could be some people out there that might have, but it's not considered an adverse event when you look at any of the contraindications. It's not a problem there.
Okay. So Matt Peterson. Hey, Matt. Glad you're on here. Another endurance guy, right? With training for Ironman and triathlon, we work out many times a day and many times a week and multiple times a day. Which workout should we preload and which should we use during and which after?
You know what I would do? I would use just amino boost throughout the day for all of your training, before, after, during, all of it. Save the branched chain, and you can keep using amino boost during the event. That means you got to practice. In other words, what you need to do is to use, like well before your event, you keep using amino boost, because I'm sure you already are. Keep using it the way you're using it, during, after, throughout the day, for that matter. Then before your biggest or hardest workout, whatever it may be that day, start to experiment with taking branched chain. Load it up exactly the way it tells you to do it, okay? Then experiment, and you go, wow, I got it. And then save that for your event, but use the amino boost to recover through all your training.
Okay, Matt, hope you got that. If not, please feel free to enter in a follow-up question. We have more coming in from Craig. He says, I'm a hand cyclist and I do 20 to 40 mile races. I also do super slow motion 20-minute failure weight sessions. Wondering what is the best, BCAA or amino boost or both?
Well, I'm going to go back. I'm going to kind of revert to my last answer, right? And if you've got a big, long event, I would use amino boost throughout my training. And I can't make a case for you using both during training. For a competition or experimenting, absolutely. I could make a case for both. I just don't think I think amino boost, certainly takes the branched chain to the next level, because of course it has the branched chain, but you just can't isolate them like that completely. And so getting at high dosage, you're going to get all the other stuff there that's not necessary or won't make a difference. And you still we want that ratio. That ratio is the one that kind of falls in that pattern, which is not the way it appears in amino boost. And that's for the delayed fatigue part. So I think that's what I would do. And then again, you could always try just branched chain by itself throughout everything as your recovery and then step it up for the event. But I prefer to use amino boost again during your training, and then to experiment with that. And I would use this for your most difficult training or your longest training, and certainly for the event, add it then.
Okay, cool. So Brian's asking, in a recommendation, basically amino boost is the top choice, and then for anyone that just wants an isolate, right, an isolation of BCAAs, or have a pill form, then go with recover and build, correct?
Correct, exactly.
Okay, well said, Brian. And also asking a follow-up question, more or less for weight loss clients, amino boost would be the way to go, question mark?
Yes, you know what? I would say yes, just because obviously during weight loss, our goal is to preserve lean body mass with the least amount of calories. And this is where amino boost, I put everyone on lean MR for their meal replacements, but you can't use that for before and after, obviously, because the fiber. So they use that for meal replacements for a couple meals during the day, and then they have 2 food meals and amino boost before and after the workout. That's what I would use for them. Because you're probably going to get a better staving off of lean body, as I showed you in that one slide. Essential amino acids really kind of trump branched chain alone for that goal.
Unless they're an endurance person as well, right?
Yes.
What else do you guys want to know? I don't know if you caught the last webinar, but Neil gave a big time product update. So Neil, do you want to touch on a little bit, or maybe Chad?
A little slow on that. Right now, the next thing coming out, I think, Chad, is the wafer bars, right? And the wafer bars, they're like the hottest selling items in that nutrition bar category. In fact, my wife, she's like the best focus group. She has to hide anything she buys in the store. She has to hide, because she got her own little drawer where she hides all her favorite little bars, and of course fakes like she's eating ours, right? And it's only like once in a while that happens, and it happens to be these wafer bars right now. So we're on that hard right now. Unfortunately, they're expensive, making them, so they're going to be like $3 rather than $2. I mean, we try to get the price down as much as we can do, and plus we're going to make millions, to start. But unfortunately, we can't get the price down. But they're going to be very good. What's the the calories? Is it? So it is going to be 240. So the calories are a little higher. We couldn't get it down, but 15 grams of protein, right? Yeah. But I'll tell you what, that's when you look in the stores and stuff, it's pretty amazing. These things are just flying off the shelf. So that's going to be really, and by the way, the one we got is just like to die for. So that's good. Yeah, they're meaty, but they're big bars, obviously. So they're going to be filling. That's what's going to be really cool. And then, of course, I think you guys know, and I don't want to go any further than this, but we are coming out with multiple flavors of the powders. But the other one, the most important to me right now is this vegan, is expanding our vegan line. And we got the vegan multi now. And Crunch, I just saw you put all your vegan multi orders in finally. Okay, so good for you. But we have the vegan amino boost. That's really huge for us because we've got a lot of our athletes that claim veganism anyway. We want to make sure. Now, it is a vegetarian product, as you know. But unfortunately, the leucine comes from duck feathers, so we can't make it. It's not pure vegan. So that's been the difficult part, finding doing the costs associated with making leucine through bacteria like we make other ones. That's really the very kind of difficult part of getting the price somewhat affordable. So we got to set up, and that'll be out. That's sort of my big thing I'm pushing for right now. And then, of course, you guys all know that. Okay, do me a favor now that I think about it. The Creatine XXL and the tablets. You've been hearing me talk about this since January. I finished the PDSRG piece on it. The new Creatine XXL is called Extreme Creatine, right? It's got the beta-alanine glutamine in big dosage now. For one scoop will be like 2 scoops a day will give you 5 grams of creatine, 3.2 grams of beta-alanine, and 7 grams of glutamine. So, and that's it. So now you've got the whole thing, and it's going to be in a powder form. It's going through NSF certification right now. But I'm telling you, get rid of the pills for me because I've got a few weeks left. That's the only reason it's taken so long to get this out. If I get this out, no one's going to buy the pills. Don't give them away if you have to.
So there you go. We'll be out
in a few weeks with those. So we got some really cool stuff coming. That's only part of it. But I'll just leave you for that.
So we have some more questions coming in. Neil, guess who this is? Is it okay to have my 9-year-old daughter drink Amino Boost if I'm fine with it and want her to have her essential amino acids?
Yeah, okay. Let me again, that's not an uncommon question, as you can imagine. I had, kids. I coached Pop Warner forever, and everybody wants to do with my kids because they went off to be professional athletes, including the NFL. And so, you can't hurt them. Let's put it that way. But there's a thing that we call CYA, cover your ass. So everything's God. Don't take unless under 18. Don't take it. Because it's unethical to do studies on children with anything. So you're not going to find any studies on kids and safety or any of that. But if you know anything about the human body, there's nothing wrong with the essential amino acids being in there. Do they need it? During growing periods, like you ever see me do a program for a kid all the way up to pretty much all the way up to age 16. And then it's even past that age, first string, calcium as needed, fish oil if needed, and that's it. So sometimes it's multi and first string, and that's it. You're getting all you need. Eat the best you can. Get your protein at 1 gram per pound during your growing. If they're not eating protein, then I say, you know what? Because we're having this conversation, Mom and me, and I'd say, yeah, you're fine doing that. It's not going to hurt, and it's certainly not going to hurt. And of course, it would help if they're not getting enough protein, and that's one way to get it. But I'd rather see the complete protein come in, and then during their growing years. You don't need much help. You don't need to add amino boost to a regular protein amount. I think it would be worthless at that point, as long as they're getting enough protein. If they're not, then it wouldn't be.
Okay, so that's the CYA answer.
That's the CYA answer, yeah.
I will tell you, as a dietitian and a mom of a Division I athlete, and he was playing ball throughout his whole life, they sometimes play multiple games per day, and soreness becomes a factor, and recovery becomes a factor. I, as a dietitian, as a mom, I think it's fine. I think it helps. I think it helps, especially with recovery. Okay, that's my take, Neil.
By the way, Jill, you all know Jill. She's been with me for 25 years, like Kat. She's a dietitian as well. It's right in the next room. Her kid is a Division I soccer player. That's all we raise here are athletes, by the way. And so she's been giving it to her kids since they were 9.
Yep. And so Dad, right? Dad says he wants her to be jacked.
Love it.
Dad Rob, Neil.
And healthy at the same time. So we know that it works. We know it does both. It does both.
Okay, so we have some more questions coming in actually about specifically branched chain amino acids.
Go anywhere.
Okay, so Craig wants to know, his wife's been lifting weights regularly, right? Her forearm brachial radialis is not recovering. She takes Amino Boost every day before and after workouts. Would you recommend her drinking 2 to 3 servings throughout the day as well?
It wouldn't hurt to add a little bit more. I'm not going to say it's going to speed it up. I've never seen it tested. I have definitely seen what happens to people after surgery using Amino Boost. I think that's actually in the PDSRG, a couple studies on that, healing faster and becoming mobile quicker. So that's the way we kind of tie it to injury. Obviously, she's got something else, going on if that one part of the body isn't healing properly. And as long as you've seen, it wouldn't hurt to do that, not one little bit, to add it, a little bit throughout the day to keep, at least to keep the muscle protein synthesis clock turned on. So it certainly wouldn't hurt, but I could not say if it would make a difference or not.
Okay, wonderful. Well, what about micronutrients?
What's that?
Micronutrients are important too. So like Neil.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we make sure, I'm assuming, listen, if you're one of ours, and if you're on this webcast, I know she's taking a multi. So I know you're doing that. And then the omegas, and that's when you start taking up, like, as you guys have heard me talk about this a million times. I have to be very conservative because I have to lecture to scientists that are way smarter than me. So I'm always, I'm always getting challenged all the time. But as you see, when I do my lectures, I say I can only make a case for a certain amount of omegas, which comes out to about 500 milligrams daily. And I always encourage you to get it from fish, right? But of course, 95% of Americans just don't do that. So it takes about, like ours is laid out perfectly, of what you would need for your normal health and to help improve health from what we see. That's the association. I don't take omegas. I don't take our own supplement at all because I eat fish 3 times a week. So if it's overkill, but for recovery, you're looking at all your football players, you're looking at my son who's a fighter, you're looking at all those guys and all the guys in this fight club, they take 4 or 5 of ours a day. And that bottle doesn't last very long, it lasts about 6 days with these kids. But I'm saying they do it for recovery. And there's some good evidence around recovery for athletes that are strained now as well with the omega-3s. So to pay attention to that, that's something new that we're seeing in research today, is the higher doses used to help with recovery.
Okay, so the question here is, what are your top 3 supplements for muscle gain? And same thing for endurance. Okay,
top 3 for muscle gain would be obviously your protein requirement, which is 1 gram per pound. And generally you can't get that from food. It's very difficult if you're trying to keep your body mass down, or fat mass, I should say. And the protein before and after the workout. Second, that's always first. Remember I said baseline, that's first. And you got the protein supplement before and after. So 40 minutes before you've got your protein, and 30 minutes, and then, hang on, I'll finish with this. And then you've taken immediately after your workout if you weren't using Amino Boost. So let's go to number 2, supplement for muscle building. And again, that would be Amino Boost. And we call that stacking, okay? Well, you've got your protein 40 minutes if you're taking 1 gram per pound throughout the day. You got your protein supplement 40 minutes before the workout. When you start the workout, or 5 minutes before, you start drinking your Amino Boost, your 1 or 2 scoops, depending on your size. You drink it, and you drink it throughout the workout, or halfway through, any point of the workout there. The second you finish the workout, repeat the dose of Amino Boost. That's second. Drive home from the gym, do whatever you're doing. 30 minutes after that, you take your protein again. So you're still on the 2 supplements, Amino Boost and protein. That's it. And then 30, 40 minutes after taking that protein supplement, you have your full post-exercise meal, which kind of matches your pre-exercise meal. So those are the 2 there that we said so far. And then the third one for muscle building, and again, we're talking about muscle building. We're not talking about health on this side right now, because I didn't say multivitamin, right? So I'm talking about muscle building side, and that is creatine, without a doubt. Creatine, there's nothing close. It is the most evidence-based supplement on the planet. And it works pretty much across the board for anybody. There are people that respond more to it, people that respond less to it, but almost everybody responds. So creatine you would add into that program. And we do that. That is a very common program. Of course, the multi is just automatic. I don't even let them take creatine unless they're taking a multi. Now, they might be lying to me, okay, right? They never leave without the multi, never, ever, okay? And if they buy it and throw it away, that's on them. I'm just saying that I would not give anybody creatine without making sure they got the multi first, because all this stuff, nothing works in a vacuum, guys. It all works synergistically and within levels that are safe. That's the goal, and that's the great thing about using .fit. It keeps all the levels below the ULs. No matter how much you mix our products, you are totally cool.
Okay, and I just wanted to clarify, you guys, creatine monohydrate is the evidence-based form. I know that's what Neil means, but a lot of questions about what.
Or anything. I was like 2 studies on those, and there are literally thousands and thousands with creatine monohydrate. So that's that. Now, endurance, I forgot. So endurance, basically the same thing. Make sure you got your protein right before and after. So there's your first amino boost also. But the next one would be workout extreme. So if you guys, I think, did I do the video on that yet? I did the video on it. You might have seen that because we released a new formula with taurine, glucuronolactone, and the milligrams of caffeine. I did it by weight. It's to die for. I mean, I know trainers just use it to get through the day. So I really make it for all of our staffs around the country. But it is laid out perfectly, including Olympic athletes that we work with, because they can only have a certain amount of caffeine in their system. As they get they can't cross a certain area, which you wouldn't by following the directions that you get on the bottle. So that is without a doubt. And I put it together in endurance. So if you want an endurance program, then send me an email. You guys all have my email, neil@fit.com, and I will send you the perfect way to use Workout Extreme while you're training, because you want to go on, off. You want to cycle it for the caffeine, and then experiment with it before your event, and then I'll show you exactly how to load it for your event. So I have all that for you if you want.
Okay, so did you do 3? Was that 3? Yep, it was. Protein.
Yeah, I put a boost in there for recovery. I'm talking about, these are highly competitive athletes. You don't need protein, and I think it was Connor that brought that up. If you're not a highly competitive athlete, you don't need the protein and the pre-post protein and amino boost. That's stacking, right? Okay. So I think that's, remember that. So you got to be a competitive athlete for that, or really aggressive weight loss. Then it would help, both of them.
Okay, so when would it be indicated to consume amino boost as well as glutamine?
I'm sorry, say it again. You broke up.
So they're asking about glutamine. When would glutamine be indicated?
Okay, glutamine is indicated under very strict. Again, here's another one where athletes trump me. So for some reason, athletes are very hung up on glutamine. I think it's their strength conditioning coaches telling them to get it. We've had entire baseball teams, their entire systems around the country. So one team with 40 teams order glutamine for their players to recover during spring training and even during the season. So, and baseball is not that vigorous a sport, at the end of the day. I know their training can be, though. I get that. They play multiple games during the day, and that's what they were doing during spring training. But so athletes are hung up on it, and the science behind it is very mixed. But the reason glutamine is such a strong, because glutamine obviously is the most ubiquitous amino acid in the body. It's constantly being used nonstop by our guts first, so very little gets into the body from foods or anything. And so by adding more, dietitians like Kat will actually give it to just regular patients to keep gut health. Don't forget, if your gut's healthy, that helps everything else be healthy. Half your immune system starts in the gut. So that's where it works. It actually helps during stressful times. It actually reduces the incidences of respiratory infections after ultra endurance athletes, because they all get sick after. Their immune systems go to hell. So glutamine can help prevent that from happening, or certainly ameliorate it, so it's not as bad. So I recommend it constantly under stressful times or aggressive dieting. All bodybuilders last 6 weeks before a show will add it. You can add it right to your creatine. You can add it right to your protein. That's why it's basically tasteless, so you can put it in anything. And if you look at the instructions that I put in there, they're very unique now. And they are by pound again. I get nuts on that. But it's illegal to do by pound on a label, because unfortunately, the government doesn't think people can do the math right. So you got to put the way we put it on the label, then go to the PDSRG, you'll find the facts. So, and again, twice a day, sometimes right before bed, depending on what's going on with the athlete. But also before and after a workout. But if you divide it up 3 times a day, about 20 grams would be the maximum. Well, would be the right dose, really, if you're really going to try to boost the immune system and cut down, some of the and speed the recovery, especially during weight loss. So that's what I use under very stressful conditions. Otherwise, not so much.
Okay. Cool. So just as a reminder, the PDSRG, the supplement reference guide that Neil talks about, is under the Learn section on the website. Also, you can access it from your DotFit Trainer account. And as always, we'll be having another product of the month webinar next month, and we're doing Workout Extreme, Neil, next month.
Next time. Yeah. So all you endurance athletes, get on there. And anybody just wants to know, kind of the cool new formulation. It's pretty cool.
That's a real, and if you haven't seen that,
It's functioning without a doubt. I'll pop 4 before I get on a 13-hour flight, so I can work the whole 13 hours.
And he does.
Yeah. By the way, let me show you this. Let me see if you guys still see this. Do you see my desk here? This is my office here on the lake out there. But this is going to be a new multivitamin when I finish. It'll be 6 months before I finish this article. But I think I'm getting it. Can you see it, Kat?
Yep, we definitely.
Yeah. So this is my conference table that no one sits at, even though we have chairs at it, because it's always covered like this. This is all the latest research on vitamin mineral intakes. And so, and again, one of the things you guys should all know, the way we formulate is completely opposite of the way manufacturers of supplements formulate. They formulate by price and by names of ingredients, and they put it in a bottle. I do the research, and the research creates the formulation. In other words, I have no freaking clue what it's going to be yet until I've looked at the positive studies where I can line everything up, including the forms of the ingredients we're going to use, the dosing properly, and then match it all and come to a legitimate conclusion where you've got the best chance of success when it comes to it. Can't think about price, can't think about anything else. You got to make it work. And if you can make it work, that's what the goal is, to live a longer, better life and play longer. And if you take all the stuff the right way, that's what we can do. Because, hey, we're finding out how long human life really is. It's pretty amazing. But it's not good to last 30 years for the average person. Not good at all. We can make it good. We can, if we fill all of our gaps with all the stuff that we're doing today, or we know today.
Okay, well, with that said, we're going to wrap up the webinar. Be sure to download the PDF of the slides from today. You can do that in the GoToWebinar window under Handouts. So you can download that as well. We'll be sure to post this recording. Thank you so much for joining us today. Happy Friday. I hope you guys all have a great weekend.
And you got our emails if you have any other questions.
Okay.
Cool. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone. Have a good one.